The night smelled like rain and betrayal. Emma Carter stood outside Brooklyn General Hospital, her shift finally over, her body aching under the weight of 7 months of pregnancy. The fluorescent lights hummed behind her as she rubbed her swollen belly and whispered, "Just a few more weeks, baby. Then it's us against the world." Luke's car pulled up to the curb, a black Mercedes S-Class that wasn't his. She frowned. He sold Toyotas, not luxury sedans. "Where'd you get this?" she asked softly. He grinned, eyes darting nervously. "A client loaned it. Said I could take you somewhere nice tonight. You deserve it." He leaned over to kiss her cheek, his breath sharp with whiskey and mint. Something in his smile made her stomach twist, but she was tired of arguing. Maybe, just maybe, he was trying. So she slid into the passenger seat and rested her hand on her belly as the city lights flickered by. They crossed the Brooklyn Bridge in silence. The rain started, soft and cold. Luke's knuckles tightened on the steering wheel. His phone buzzed twice. Unknown number. He flipped it face down. "Where are we going?" she asked, half teasing. He smiled, too quickly. "The River Cafe. I got us a table by the window. Manhattan skyline, fancy dinner, the works." Emma blinked. That restaurant was impossible to get into, the kind of place where engagement rings came in Tiffany boxes and people spoke in low, confident tones. "Luke, we can't afford." He cut her off. "Don't worry, it's covered. A friend's treat." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. Inside, the restaurant glowed like another world. Soft piano music, candles flickering in crystal holders, waiters gliding like ghosts. Emma felt small in her faded maternity dress, but Luke guided her toward a corner table overlooking the East River. And then she saw him. A man in his mid-40s, salt and pepper hair, tailored charcoal suit, sitting alone at the table. He looked up as they approached, his gaze sharp, evaluating. His voice was smooth but cold. "Mr. Carter, you're late," Luke chuckled nervously. "Traffic, Mr. Moretti. You know how it is." Mr. Moretti. The name hit Emma like a chill. Vincent Moretti, real estate magnate, a man whose name appeared in headlines next to words like billion-dollar project and rumored ties. Vincent's eyes shifted to Emma, softening slightly. "And this must be your wife." Emma swallowed. "Emma." Vincent smiled politely, sliding a small velvet box across the table toward her. "A token of good faith." She frowned. "What is this?" "Open it," Luke urged. Inside was a delicate diamond choker, Cartier, glinting under the light, the kind of jewelry worth more than their car. Emma's heart pounded. "I can't accept this." Vincent's voice was calm. "You already have. Mr. Carter and I have an arrangement." Emma froze. "Arrangement?" Luke's face flushed. "Babe, listen, it's not what it sounds like." Vincent interrupted smoothly. "Your husband owes me $200,000. Gambling debts. I offered him a clean slate in exchange for something priceless." Emma's voice broke. "Me?" Silence. Vincent's eyes softened, almost regretful. "Not ownership, dinner, company, conversation, nothing more, unless you choose it." Emma's breath hitched. Her hands trembled as she pushed the box back across the table. "I'm not for sale." Luke reached for her wrist. "Emma, please. This could fix everything. Our baby, our future." She stood abruptly, her chair scraping the floor. Heads turned. "Our baby deserves parents, not pimps." Luke hissed. "Don't make a scene." Tears blurred her vision. "You already did." She grabbed her purse, turned toward the exit, and felt her baby kick hard, as if reminding her who she was fighting for. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the air still smelled of thunder. Emma leaned against the railing, trembling, the Manhattan skyline glittering across the water. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry," it read. "You didn't deserve this. He will regret it, VM." She deleted the message, but her heart pounded louder than the river below. Somewhere inside the restaurant, Vincent Moretti watched through the window, his jaw tight. For the first time in years, the man who could buy anything realized there was one thing he couldn't: her forgiveness. And that made her priceless. The next morning, Emma woke to the smell of stale whiskey and guilt. Luke was passed out on the couch, his shirt half unbuttoned, his shoes still on. Empty beer bottles littered the coffee table. The TV flickered with a muted sports channel. Emma's stomach tightened. She tried to breathe slowly, to keep the baby calm. The scene from last night replayed like a nightmare she couldn't turn off. The velvet box, Vincent Moretti's voice, Luke's desperate eyes. She moved quietly to the kitchen, made herself a cup of weak coffee, and sat at the table. Her hands shook as she opened her iPhone. 3 missed calls from an unknown number. 1 voicemail. A man's voice, low and deliberate. "Mrs. Carter, this is just business. No one intends to harm you, but I advise you to make your husband honor his agreements. If not, someone else will." She deleted it instantly. Her throat felt dry. When she turned, Luke was standing in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. "You listening to my messages again?" Emma froze. "That wasn't yours, it was mine." He shrugged, avoiding her gaze. "Look, last night got messy. I didn't mean for it to sound the way it did. Vincent just wanted—" "What? Me?" she snapped. "You traded me like I'm part of your debt? You sold me for dinner?" Luke slammed his fist on the counter. "It's not like that. You think I wanted this? Those guys were gonna break my legs, Emma. You don't understand what kind of men they are." She set her cup down slowly. "Then maybe you shouldn't have borrowed money from them." He turned away, muttering, "You think you're so perfect? You're just a nurse. You wouldn't survive one day without me." Something inside her cracked. She picked up his laptop from the counter, a sleek MacBook Pro he bragged about buying secondhand, and opened it. The screen flickered to life. "Don't touch that," Luke said sharply, stepping closer. But she already saw it. A folder titled Consulting Agreement. She clicked. Her stomach turned. A PDF filled the screen, complete with her signature. Her name, her address, her medical status, all neatly typed under a heading labeled Personal Companion Arrangement. She scrolled down. A line read, "Finder's fee, $200,000. Contract term, 3 months. Her heart stopped. She whispered, "You forged my signature." Luke grabbed the laptop, but she shoved him away. "How could you?" Her voice cracked like glass. He looked wild, cornered. "It's just paperwork. It's not real unless you show up. Nobody's gonna hurt you. I just needed time." "Time for what? To give birth in debt?" Her hands trembled. "You're not a husband. You're a broker." She turned away, clutching her belly, trying to steady her breathing. "Get out." He laughed bitterly. "And go where? You can't even pay rent without me." She didn't answer. She just walked into the bedroom and locked the door. Her body felt heavy, her baby kicking as if sensing her rage. Emma sat on the floor, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Messy hair, tired eyes, skin pale with exhaustion. She whispered to herself, "You're stronger than this. You have to be." Then she opened her iPhone's voice recorder and pressed record. Her voice trembled but stayed steady. "My name is Emma Carter. If anything happens to me or my baby, my husband Luke Carter is responsible. There's a man named Vincent Moretti. He's involved. This recording is my proof." She saved the file and uploaded it to iCloud. Then she sent a copy to her work email and her cousin, Officer Daniel Brooks, with a simple message, "Just in case." Outside, Luke paced the living room, muttering to himself, his phone buzzing with unknown numbers. Emma stared at the ceiling. Every second felt like glass under her feet. She knew this wasn't just a mistake, it was a transaction. And transactions have receipts. She picked up her iPhone again and typed a single message to the unknown number that had called earlier. "Tell Vincent Moretti he bought nothing. I'm nobody's deal." Then she powered the phone off and whispered to her baby, "We're leaving soon." But in another part of Manhattan, Vincent Moretti listened to the same voicemail Emma deleted, his own warning, and murmured to his assistant, "She's braver than I thought. Keep her safe." Quietly. 3 days passed before Emma heard from Vincent Moretti again. The message arrived at sunrise, short and formal. "Mrs. Carter, I would like to speak with you privately. Public place. No obligation. Noon tomorrow at the Ritz-Carlton Lounge, Central Park South." Emma stared at the screen, coffee growing cold in her hands. She wanted to delete it, but curiosity burned like acid. Why would a man like him, rich, feared, surrounded by power, bother to reach out after what her husband had done? Grace, her coworker from the maternity ward, tried to talk her out of it. He's dangerous. Men like that don't invite. They trap." Emma shook her head. "I'm not walking into a trap, I'm walking into the truth." The next day she dressed carefully. Jeans, a cream sweater, her hair pulled into a loose bun. No makeup except lip balm. She wanted to look like herself, not like someone for sale. When she arrived, the hotel lobby shimmered under crystal chandeliers. The faint scent of Dior perfume hung in the air. It was another world, quiet, polished, untouchable. She spotted Vincent sitting in a corner booth, reading something on a tablet, a black Mont Blanc pen tucked into his jacket pocket. He stood as she approached, tall and composed, every movement measured. "Mrs. Carter," he greeted softly, offering his hand. "Emma," she corrected. "I'm not here as anyone's property." A faint smile touched his lips. "Fair enough." She sat down across from him, her heart thudding. A server arrived with sparkling water and 2 cups of espresso. Vincent gestured for her to relax, but she didn't. He began calmly. "Your husband owes money to people worse than me. I cleared those debts to keep them away from you." Her eyes narrowed. "You expect me to thank you?" "No," he said. "I expect you to understand the difference between leverage and protection." Emma leaned forward. "You paid him $200,000. For what? You think that makes you some kind of savior?" Vincent studied her quietly. "I paid him because he was about to sell your name to a man who doesn't take no for an answer. I wanted to stop that." She hesitated. "Why?" His jaw tightened. "Because I know what it's like to grow up with men who think everything, including people, has a price." Something flickered in his eyes, almost human. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the Cartier box. "I don't want this back because it's worth money. I want it gone because it represents the worst part of a deal that should never have happened." He slid it across the table. "Sell it. Donate it. Throw it in the river. I don't care." Emma stared at the box but didn't touch it. "You think this fixes it?" Vincent shook his head. "No, but it's a start." Silence stretched between them, heavy but not hostile. Then he said quietly, "I've had people fear me, flatter me, betray me, but I've never had someone look me in the eye and call me what I am, a buyer of souls. You did that without flinching." She swallowed hard. "Maybe because I already lost mine trying to save someone who didn't deserve it." Vincent looked away, his fingers tightening around his espresso cup. "You're not broken, Emma. You're just tired of being traded." She almost laughed. "You sound like a therapist." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm trying to remember how to be human." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Emma said, "If you really want to make things right, help me clear my name. The gossip sites are spreading lies. Luke's mistress made sure of it. I'm being painted as some gold-digging nurse who chased a rich man's wallet." Vincent nodded once. "Consider it done. My attorney will handle it." "Why are you doing this?" she asked softly. His answer came after a long pause. "Because I don't want your child growing up thinking every man is a transaction." Her eyes filled before she could stop them. She blinked quickly, whispering, "You can't buy redemption, Mr. Moretti." He leaned back, voice low. "No, but maybe I can earn it." Emma stood to leave. "I don't know what you want from me." Vincent looked up, his expression unreadable. Honesty, nothing more. She turned to go, but his final words followed her like a shadow. "Luke will come to you soon. He'll beg, maybe threaten. When he does, call me, not for help, for options." Emma froze, heart pounding. She didn't answer, just walked out into the cold Manhattan air, the city buzzing around her. As she reached for her car door, her phone buzzed again, a new message from Vincent's number. "I meant what I said. Protection, not purchase." She stared at it for a long moment before locking her phone. But deep down she knew she'd just made a deal with the devil who might be her only way out. By the time Emma left the Ritz-Carlton, the story had already begun spreading online. The headlines were merciless. "Pregnant nurse seduces Manhattan tycoon while husband drowns in debt." The photo was a grainy shot of her walking out of the hotel, hand on her belly, looking exhausted. Someone had waited for her outside, and Emma didn't need to guess who paid for the camera. In a glossy Fifth Avenue salon, Ava Monroe scrolled through her phone with a satisfied smile. She wore a silk robe, nails freshly painted Dior red. The stylist pinned her curls while she adjusted the angle of her iPhone for a perfect selfie. Her live stream had already hit 20,000 viewers. "Ladies," she purred, "you ever notice how some women can't let go? Even when a man moves on, they'll do anything to stay relevant." She tilted her head, pretending to look sympathetic. "It's sad, really, especially when they start chasing powerful men for attention." The comments exploded, heart emojis, laughing faces, people tagging gossip pages. Ava lifted a small Tiffany bag into frame. "When a man truly loves you, he doesn't need to buy forgiveness. He buys the future." She winked. No one knew the truth. The bracelet in the bag was paid for with Vincent's hush money, funneled through Luke's finder's fee. Ava didn't care. Lies made better content. Meanwhile, Emma sat in her tiny kitchen, scrolling through the cruel comments until her stomach twisted. She looked so smug. Gold digger. Bet the baby's not even his. Her hands shook so badly she dropped the phone. Grace stopped by after work, carrying takeout and concern. Stop reading that garbage. Emma rubbed her temples. It's everywhere, Grace. My patients will see it. My boss, my mother. Grace set the food down. Then fight back. Tell your side. Emma let out a bitter laugh. Who's gonna believe me? A nurse from Brooklyn versus Ava Monroe, PR queen of Manhattan. Just then, her phone buzzed. A message request on Instagram. The name read Maya Ruiz. Emma hesitated, then opened it. Hi Emma, I'm an investigative podcaster. Your story doesn't add up, and that means the truth's missing. I'd like to help you find it. Coffee? Somewhere public? Emma stared at the message. She didn't know if it was a trap or a lifeline. But she couldn't keep hiding. The next afternoon, they met at a Barnes & Noble cafe near Union Square. The warm smell of coffee and paper steadied Emma's nerves. Maya looked younger than expected. Messy bun, denim jacket, eyes sharp with purpose. I'm not here to exploit you, Maya said, setting down her laptop. I want the truth. That video, the contract, all of it, it doesn't fit. Someone's pushing a narrative. Emma sighed. You mean Ava Monroe? Maya nodded. And maybe your husband. For the first time, Emma told someone everything. The forged signature, the debt, Vincent's offer, even the hotel meeting. Maya listened without interrupting, typing notes on her MacBook Air. When Emma finished, her throat ached. Maya leaned back. You realize what this is, right? Classic laundering pattern. A fake contract, a consulting fee, a PR distraction to redirect attention from where the real money's going. Emma blinked. You think Luke and Ava are part of something bigger? Maya nodded slowly. And you're the perfect scapegoat. Pregnant, emotional, easy to frame. Emma stared into her coffee. I just want it to stop. Maya gave her a business card. Then we stop it smart. I'll dig. You stay clean. Don't confront them yet. And Emma, keep every message, every voicemail, every receipt. Emma tucked the card into her wallet. Her baby kicked softly, as if reminding her why she couldn't give up. That night, as she rocked on her small couch, the city noise outside faded into the hum of her thoughts. Her iPhone buzzed again, another message from an unknown number. Stop talking to people, you don't know who you're dealing with. She stared at the text, her pulse racing. Then she typed back, neither do you. She pressed send before she could lose her nerve. Across town, Ava smiled at her phone, screenshotting Emma's reply. Perfect, she whispered. Now the world will see who the real villain is. The next morning, sunlight crept through the blinds, painting soft stripes across the small Brooklyn apartment. Emma sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea she couldn't taste, her eyes swollen from another sleepless night. The online noise hadn't stopped. Ava's stream had gone viral. Reporters were emailing her hospital. Someone even called her mother in Florida, asking if she raised a homewrecker. Grace stopped by again, her face tight with worry. You can't keep living like this, Em. You need a lawyer. Emma shook her head, staring at her trembling hands. I can't afford one. Luke's name is still on everything, the rent, the car, even the insurance. Grace leaned forward. Then you need help that's free. There's a legal clinic at Columbia. They handle forged signatures all the time. You've got proof, right? Emma nodded slowly. The contract, the emails, and the voice recording. Good. Bring them. Let people with badges and brains handle it. But deep down, Emma didn't trust anyone wearing a badge. She'd seen too many women walk into the system broken and leave invisible. When Grace left, Emma sat in silence. She picked up her Kindle from the counter, a gift from a patient she'd once comforted through a miscarriage, and opened Women Who Run with the Wolves. Her eyes landed on a highlighted line. When a woman refuses to be broken, the world labels her dangerous. Dangerous. Maybe it was time to be that. Her phone buzzed. A message from Daniel, her cousin, the NYPD officer who used to sneak her ice cream after bad report cards. Heard about the mess. You okay? Emma typed back, no, but I will be. I need to know if Luke's in trouble with anyone besides Moretti. The reply came fast. Yes. Word is he owes money to a guy named Russo. Worse than Moretti. You need to stay away from him. Lock your doors. I'm coming by tonight. She exhaled, gripping the edge of the table. Okay, she whispered. Okay. But when Daniel arrived that evening, he wasn't alone. Parked across the street was a sleek black Mercedes, Vincent's driver behind the wheel. Emma's chest tightened. Daniel noticed too. Who's that? She hesitated. Protection. I didn't ask for it. Daniel frowned. Moretti's protection always comes with a price, Em. I know, she said quietly, but at least this one's alive. Inside, Daniel reviewed the forged contract on her MacBook Pro, his jaw tightening with every scroll. This is bad. Luke copied your signature from your mortgage documents. If you file a complaint, he's cooked. Emma stared at the screen, anger slowly cooling into resolve. Then I'll file it, but I want him to see me do it. Daniel looked up sharply. Why? Because he needs to know I'm done being afraid. Later that night, alone again, Emma opened a drawer and found the Cartier box. It gleamed in the dim light, a symbol of everything she'd lost and what she might still reclaim. She pulled out a roll of masking tape, wrote the word evidence across it, and sealed the box shut. It wasn't much, but it was control. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. She turned off the lights, pulled a blanket over her lap, and felt her baby move. I'm sorry, she whispered. Your daddy forgot who we are, but I won't. The apartment felt too small for her thoughts, too fragile for her future. Her phone lit up once more, Maya's name flashing on the screen. Got something. Ava's payments trace back to a shell company under Russo's name, the same one tied to Luke's debt. It's not random, it's organized. Emma's fingers went cold. She typed back, send everything. Maya responded, already did, but be careful. You're in the middle of their cover-up. Emma closed her eyes. Every fear she tried to bury was surfacing. She whispered into the quiet, if they think I'll break, they don't know me yet. Outside, the Mercedes engine started, and for a moment, Emma wondered if Vincent was her shield, or her next mistake. Rain pounded the windows that night like a warning. Emma sat on the couch, paperwork spread across the coffee table, her statement draft, screenshots, and printed copies of every text from Luke and Ava. The baby shifted in her belly, restless, as if feeling the storm outside and inside her heart. Luke hadn't been home in 3 days. She'd blocked his number after his last voicemail, drunken rambling about her betrayal, followed by a promise that she'd regret making him look weak. Still, she jumped every time a car door slammed outside. Around midnight, there was a pounding on the door. Not a knock, a demand. Emma, open up. Her pulse spiked. She froze, debating whether to call Daniel, but before she could decide, the lock rattled. Luke's voice slurred through the wood. Don't make me do this, Em. She took a deep breath, unlocked the chain, and cracked the door just enough to face him. His eyes were bloodshot, his clothes soaked from the rain. He smelled like whiskey and cheap cologne. You shouldn't be here, she said quietly. You're drunk. I'm your husband, he snapped, pushing his way in. Or did you forget that while you were sipping lattes with your rich boyfriend? She backed away. Vincent is not my boyfriend. Oh right, he sneered. He's your sponsor? How's that working out? Fancy dinners, designer jewelry? Guess being a whore pays better than nursing. Emma's hand trembled, but her voice was steady. Watch your mouth. You did this, Luke. You sold me like property, and now you're mad the deal fell apart. His expression twisted. You don't get it. Those men, Russo, Moretti, they don't forgive debt. I did what I had to do for us. For us, she shouted. You forged my name. You traded my dignity for your gambling. There's no us left. He stepped closer, his face inches from hers. You think you're better than me now? You think that baby gives you power? Emma took a step back, but the rug slipped beneath her feet. Luke reached out, too late. She hit the floor hard, her elbow cracking against the wood. Pain exploded through her abdomen. For a moment, the world tilted. She couldn't breathe. Luke's face went white. Emma, I didn't mean, she gasped, clutching her belly. Call an ambulance. He froze. It's fine. You're fine. Call them, she screamed. He fumbled for his phone, hands shaking. The sirens came faster than her consciousness faded. At the hospital, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The room smelled like antiseptic and fear. Grace stood by her bedside, holding her hand. A nurse adjusted the fetal monitor, steady beeps, merciful and strong. The baby's okay, the doctor said. You're lucky. Rest, hydrate, avoid stress. Avoid stress, as if that were possible. Grace's eyes brimmed. What happened? Emma stared at the ceiling. He pushed me. I slipped. Grace's voice hardened. That's not an accident. Before Emma could answer, the door opened. Vincent stood there in a dark coat, rain still dripping from his shoulders. He didn't step closer, didn't speak until the nurse left. I heard, he said softly. He's at the precinct. They're deciding whether to hold him overnight. Emma's throat tightened. You sent someone. Vincent didn't deny it. You and your baby are under protection now. She shook her head. I don't want protection. I want peace. He studied her for a long moment. Peace comes after control. I'm not your problem, she whispered. He moved closer, eyes dark. You're not, but you're my responsibility until this is finished. Her pulse jumped. You can't fix this with money or guards, Vincent. He nodded. Then tell me how. She looked away. Make the truth public. All of it. Luke, Ava, Russo, the forged contract. If they can't hide, they can't hurt me. He frowned. That's dangerous. So is being silent. Their eyes met. Two people on opposite sides of power, realizing they wanted the same thing. Freedom. Vincent finally said, then we do it your way. But I'll be watching. As he turned to leave, Emma's voice stopped him. Don't do it for me. Do it because men like them think women are currency. He paused at the door. Then let's bankrupt them. Outside her hospital window, lightning flashed over the Manhattan skyline, bright, brief, and violent. Somewhere out there, war had just been declared. The morning after the hospital scare, Emma woke to the soft hum of machines and the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor. Her hand instinctively found her belly. The baby kicked gently, like a promise. Grace was asleep in the chair beside her, an empty Starbucks cup balanced on her knee. Emma turned her head toward the window. Outside, the city was alive, traffic rolling down Lexington Avenue, people walking fast with umbrellas, everything moving forward, while she stood still. For the first time, she didn't feel weak. She felt angry, clear, and ready. Vincent had left a note on the nightstand. You're safe. Don't trust silence, it hides teeth. When you're ready, call me. That afternoon, she did. The next day, a car arrived, a black Mercedes S-Class again, the same kind that had once symbolized humiliation. This time, it was protection. Vincent's driver opened the door for her. No words, no questions. They drove to a tall glass tower on Park Avenue. Inside, marble floors gleamed under soft light. Men in suits and women in heels moved like clockwork, purposeful and polished. Emma felt out of place in her maternity dress and cardigan, but Vincent met her at the elevator with a nod that said, "You belong here now." "Why am I here?" she asked as they stepped into a sleek conference room with a panoramic view of Manhattan. Vincent gestured toward a woman standing at the far end of the room. Isabella Moretti, his sister. Elegant in a navy power suit, every movement efficient. "Because we're ending this," Vincent said. Isabella extended her hand. "Mrs. Carter, I've drafted an agreement to nullify your husband's debt, declare his actions fraudulent, and transfer protection custody to your name. You'll have legal immunity for anything he forged." Emma blinked. "You can do that?" Isabella's smile was faint. "I can make it happen. But he needs to sign." Emma's pulse quickened. "Luke won't agree. He'll never admit what he did." Vincent's voice was low. "Then he doesn't walk out of this building a free man." An hour later, the door opened. Luke walked in, wearing a wrinkled suit, eyes red from lack of sleep. He looked smaller somehow, deflated. He glanced around the boardroom, at the glass walls, the expensive furniture, the power in the air, and sneered. "You really leveled up, Em. Trading one owner for another?" Emma didn't flinch. "This isn't about you anymore, Luke. Sign the papers." He picked up the Mont Blanc pen on the table, twirling it between his fingers. "What's in it for me?" "Freedom," Vincent said. Luke laughed bitterly. "Freedom? You mean your kind of freedom? The kind that comes with strings and interest rates?" Isabella's patience snapped. "Mr. Carter, either you sign this rescission agreement, or we file criminal charges for fraud, forgery, and coercion. You'll spend years explaining to a judge why you sold your pregnant wife." Luke's smirk faltered. His gaze flicked to Emma. "You'd really do that to me?" Her voice was calm but cold. "You already did it to yourself." He hesitated, then leaned down and scrawled his name on the last page. His hand shook slightly, but the signature was clear. He tossed the pen aside. "There. You happy now?" Vincent reached across the table, took the papers, and handed them to Isabella without looking away from Luke. "You just gave up your last piece of control. Congratulations." Luke stood, pointing at Emma. "You think this makes you a hero? You're just his project now." Emma rose slowly, her voice low but sharp. "No, Luke. I'm my own project, and I'm finally finished letting men build me just to break me." He snorted, stepping closer, but Vincent's bodyguard moved forward, a silent warning. Luke backed away, glaring at them all. You'll regret this. No, Emma said, gathering her documents. For the first time, I won't. She turned toward the elevator, her reflection catching in the glass walls. Tired, yes, but unbroken. Behind her, Luke's voice faded as security escorted him out. Vincent spoke softly. You handled that better than most people in this room ever could. Emma exhaled. It wasn't strength, it was survival. Isabella handed her a folder. This is your future. Keep it locked. Keep it safe. Emma took it, clutching it to her chest. What now? Vincent glanced out the window, his reflection shadowed against the Manhattan skyline. Now we expose the rest of them. But first, you rest. As she stepped into the elevator, her heart pounded, not with fear, but with purpose. Unseen by her, a phone camera hidden in Luke's pocket had been recording everything. Within hours, that footage would leak and twist the truth all over again. The video hit the internet by sunrise. It opened with Emma standing in the glass-walled boardroom, Vincent beside her, Luke's voice shouting in the background. Someone had cropped out the contracts and cut the sound to make it look like a secret deal between a pregnant wife and a billionaire. The caption read, Emma Carter, from nurse to negotiator, how to sell your soul and still smile. Within an hour, it went viral. Emma saw it first on her phone while making breakfast. The baby kicked as if sensing her tension. She scrolled through the comments until her eyes burned. Gold digger. She planned it all. Classic manipulation. Every word stabbed deeper than the last. Grace arrived with groceries, her expression grim. Don't look at it, she warned. It's everywhere, Emma whispered. I can't stop it. Grace pulled out her phone. Maya just called me. She says the video metadata was edited. The timestamps don't match. It's a setup. Emma sank into the couch. Ava, she said flatly. It has to be her. Grace nodded. Who else? Across town, Ava Monroe sipped champagne in her Fifth Avenue apartment, her reflection glittering in the wall of windows. The video played silently on her iPad while messages from tabloids flooded her inbox. Offers for interviews, brand collaborations, invitations to events. Her smile was perfect, practiced. Let the little nurse cry, she murmured to herself. I warned her not to play in my world. But even as she said it, her phone buzzed with a message from a number she didn't recognize. You went too far, Ava. The deal was to distract, not destroy. Russo's watching. Ava's smirk faded. She tossed the phone aside and poured more champagne. He wouldn't dare, she whispered, but her hand trembled. Meanwhile, Maya stormed into Vincent's office, laptop in hand. She doctored the footage, she said, voice sharp. I traced the upload through a VPN that links to a PR agency owned by Ava Monroe. Vincent frowned, standing by the window overlooking Central Park. Then she just signed her own warrant. Maya shook her head. It's not that simple. The internet doesn't wait for truth. It wants blood. And right now, Emma's the one bleeding. Vincent turned toward his assistant. Get the car. We're moving her. That evening, the same black Mercedes pulled up outside Emma's apartment. Vincent got out, umbrella in hand, his suit dark against the rain. Pack a bag, he said simply. I'm not running, Emma said. This isn't running, he replied. It's surviving until this storm passes. She hesitated, then nodded. Grace helped her gather essentials, a few clothes, baby supplies, the sealed Cartier box labeled evidence. They drove through the city in silence, raindrops streaking across the windows like falling glass. When they reached Central Park South, the car turned into a private driveway leading to a luxury apartment tower. Inside, the suite was pristine. White walls, marble counters, floor-to-ceiling windows, framing the city skyline. Everything smelled like clean linen and money. Emma set her bag down slowly, feeling small against all that emptiness. This isn't me, she said quietly. Vincent met her eyes. No. But it's safe. He handed her a phone. New number. Use it only to contact me, Isabella or Maya. Emma nodded. What about Luke? He's gone underground, Vincent said. But Russo's men are looking for him, and if they find him, Ava's next. Emma exhaled. So I'm bait now? Vincent's jaw tightened. You're a witness. That's not the same thing. She looked out the window at the city lights. Feels the same. Later that night, she sat alone on the couch, staring at her reflection in the glass. Behind her, the skyline pulsed with neon and noise. Her phone buzzed again. Maya this time. I posted the real footage. People are starting to question the narrative. Ava's losing followers fast. Emma's shoulders sagged with relief. But the next message wiped that feeling away. Luke's missing. His car was found abandoned in Queens. No sign of him. Her blood ran cold. She typed back, "He won't come for me." Not now. Before she could hit send, a shadow moved outside the window. Just a flash, maybe a reflection, but enough to make her freeze. She whispered to herself, "It's just the city lights." But deep down, she knew better. Because somewhere out there, someone had decided that if they couldn't control Emma Carter, they'd erase her instead. The apartment was silent, except for the rain tapping against the glass. Emma hadn't slept in nearly 2 days. Every creak in the hallway made her nerves jolt. She sat on the couch, her belly round beneath her sweatshirt, her laptop open to Maya's latest update. The video was finally losing traction, Ava's lies unraveling under the weight of evidence. But peace still felt like a foreign language. The doorbell rang. Her breath caught. "It's me," a voice said from the hall. "Vincent." Emma opened the door a few inches, enough to see him standing there in a gray coat, damp from the rain. He held a grocery bag and something else, a paperback book tucked under his arm. "I didn't call you," she said cautiously. "I know," he replied, his tone softer than usual. "But you're not eating, Grace told me." He stepped inside, placing the bag on the counter. Soup, bread, nothing fancy. Emma eyed the book. "And that?" He hesitated before holding it out. "Atomic Habits. It helped me once. I thought it might help you too." She took it, fingers brushing his for just a second. "You read self-help books?" He smiled faintly. "Even devils need instruction manuals." For a moment, neither spoke. The city hummed below them, traffic lights reflecting across the glass walls. Emma finally said, "Why are you really here, Vincent?" He leaned against the counter, folding his arms. "Because Luke is gone. And when men like Russo can't find what they're owed, they go after what's left. You." She exhaled, a tremor in her chest. "So I'm bait again?" "No," he said firmly. "You're the line they won't cross, because if they do, they deal with me." Emma shook her head. "That's not protection. That's war." Vincent's gaze didn't waver. "Then we fight smart." She studied him for a long moment. The man before her wasn't the monster the tabloids described. His power wasn't loud. It was quiet, steady, dangerous only when provoked. But behind his controlled tone, she sensed something else. Guilt. "You ever regret it?" she asked softly. "Regret what?" "Becoming the man everyone fears." He looked out the window. "Every day. But fear keeps order, and order keeps people alive." She stepped closer. "And happiness?" He gave a dry laugh. "That's never been part of the contract." Emma's hand drifted to her stomach. "I used to think love was about saving someone. Luke needed saving. I thought if I loved hard enough, he'd change." Vincent's eyes met hers. "You can't heal someone who enjoys the pain." Something in his voice cracked, barely noticeable, but real. She saw then what no one else did, a man who built an empire on control because he couldn't control his own heart. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. He exhaled slowly. "Because I don't want to be the man who bought your misery anymore." Emma swallowed the lump in her throat. "You didn't buy me, Vincent. Luke tried to sell something that was never his." He nodded, silent for a moment, then turned toward the door. "You should eat and sleep. You'll need strength for what's coming." "Wait," she said. "You didn't finish what you came to say." He paused, hand on the doorknob. "I came to tell you that you're not alone anymore." When he left, the room felt heavier and lighter all at once. Emma set the soup on the table, opened Atomic Habits, and found a note tucked inside the front cover. It wasn't a love letter, just one line written in bold handwriting. "You're not what they did to you." Her vision blurred with tears. She wiped them quickly and whispered, "Thank you." The baby kicked, a soft reminder that life was still moving forward. Later that night, as she prepared for bed, her phone buzzed again, a message from Maya. "Update. Ava's account's frozen. The DA is building a case. But be careful. Russo's network is collapsing, and desperate men do stupid things." Emma placed the phone on the nightstand, heart pounding. She looked at her reflection in the window. Tired, yes, but stronger than before. "I'm not scared," she said aloud, as if daring the night to challenge her. But outside, in a black car idling across the street, a man with slicked back hair made a call. "She's still in the apartment," he said. "Orders?" The voice on the other end answered coldly. "Wait for the baby." The courthouse smelled like old paper and tension. Emma sat on the wooden bench outside courtroom 3B, her hands folded over her belly. She could feel her baby moving gently, like a heartbeat reminding her to breathe. Grace sat beside her, flipping nervously through her phone. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "Yes, I do," Emma said. "If I don't stand up for myself now, they'll keep doing it to someone else." Across the hall, Ava Monroe arrived, sunglasses on, hair flawless, the picture of calm confidence. Behind her trailed 2 PR agents and a lawyer in an expensive navy suit. The flashes from photographers waiting by the courthouse doors followed her every move. Emma looked away, focusing on the tiled floor. She could hear the whispers. "That's her, the nurse. The pregnant one. She's the reason Ava's losing sponsors." Vincent appeared moments later, flanked by Isabella and Maya. "He wasn't supposed to be here," the press would twist it, but he came anyway. "You look steady," he said softly. "I'm terrified," Emma replied. "Good," he said, adjusting his cufflinks. "Fear keeps you sharp." She managed a faint smile. "That your version of comfort? It's the best I've got," he admitted. When the clerk finally called their case, Emma followed her lawyer inside. The courtroom was cold, sterile, with light bouncing off glass panels and microphones. The judge, a woman in her 50s with a calm, unreadable face, looked down at them from the bench. "Case number 4729, the bailiff announced. Monroe versus Carter." Ava's attorney began with a smooth voice. "Your Honor, my client seeks an immediate restraining order against Mrs. Emma Carter, who has repeatedly defamed and harassed her through online statements and media leaks." Emma's stomach turned. Lies again, perfectly rehearsed. Then it was her lawyer's turn. Isabella stepped forward, calm as ever. "Your Honor, this is not a harassment case. It's a deflection. My client has been the target of a campaign designed to destroy her credibility after she exposed a fraudulent contract orchestrated by her husband and Ms. Monroe. We have video evidence, timestamps, and sworn affidavits." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Show me." Isabella nodded to Maya, who connected her MacBook to the projector. The room dimmed as the footage began. Luke's confession at the boardroom, the forged documents, Ava's signature on the PR payments. The audio was crisp, damning. Ava shifted in her chair, her confident smile faltering. Her lawyer objected, but the judge silenced him with a wave. "Miss Monroe," the judge said, "would you care to explain why your company received payments from a shell account belonging to Mr. Russo, the same account tied to Mr. Carter's debts?" Ava stammered. I have no knowledge of." "Enough," the judge said, voice firm. "I'm dismissing your petition, and Ms. Monroe, consider this a warning. If any more false accusations appear under your name, I will hold you in contempt of court." Emma didn't move, didn't even smile. Relief felt too fragile to touch. As they left the courtroom, the hallway erupted with noise, reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing. "Emma, did you manipulate the billionaire? Is Vincent Moretti the father of your baby?" Vincent stepped between her and the chaos, his voice low but commanding. "Show some respect, she's carrying a child." The crowd quieted, startled by his tone. For the first time, the tabloids captured a different image, not scandal, but something close to protection. Outside, rain had started again, soft and steady. Emma stood on the courthouse steps, the gray sky reflected in the puddles around her. Isabella handed her an umbrella. "You did it," she said simply. Emma shook her head. "Not yet. Ava will strike again. She doesn't lose quietly." Vincent turned to her, eyes steady. "Then we stay louder. I'll have my PR team release the real story. Your words, your truth." "No," Emma said, surprising herself. "If I'm going to tell it, it'll be me, my voice, my timing." He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Fair enough, but you won today. Don't forget that." Emma looked up at the clouds. "Winning doesn't feel like I thought it would." Vincent's expression softened. "That's because this isn't the end. It's just the moment you stopped being the victim." She turned to him, eyes glistening. "And started being who?" He smiled faintly. "Who you were always meant to be." As he opened the car door for her, she caught her reflection in the window, a woman tired, bruised, but standing tall. In the distance, across the street, a black car idled once again. The same voice from before whispered into a phone. The judge protected her today. Next time, she won't be that lucky. The night after the court victory should have felt like peace. But it didn't. The city was too loud, too alive, and Emma couldn't silence the feeling that something was moving beneath the surface, something unfinished. She sat at the dining table in Vincent's apartment, the baby's heartbeat echoing faintly through the small Doppler device Grace had brought over. It was a sound that reminded her why she kept fighting. But tonight, it also reminded her of how much she still didn't know. Vincent walked in from the balcony, jacket draped over his arm. "You should sleep," he said softly. "I can't," she replied, closing the folder of court documents. "Something doesn't fit. Ava and Luke, they're not smart enough to build that shell company. Someone else is behind it." Vincent's brow furrowed. "You think it's Russo?" Emma nodded. "And maybe more than him. Money like that doesn't just vanish. It's moved, cleaned, hidden." He took a seat across from her, eyes sharp. "You sound like a detective." She gave a faint smile. "No, just a woman who's tired of being lied to." Vincent hesitated, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a flash drive. "My accountant gave me this earlier. It's every transaction tied to the properties under my company's development wing. If Russo's using one of my accounts, it'll be here." Emma blinked. "You're giving me your financials?" He nodded. "Transparency, you asked for the truth. Let's find it together." An hour later, Maya joined them via video call, her face glowing from the laptop screen. She looked wired, energized. "All right," she said, cracking her knuckles. "Let's see what the rich hide from the IRS." The files opened line by line: investments, property transfers, offshore payments. Vincent's expression grew darker with every scroll. Then Emma saw it. A single entry listed under Consulting and Media Strategy. Amount, $200,000. Payee, Monroe Creative LLC. Her voice trembled. "That's Ava's company." Vincent leaned closer. "Date? 2 days before Luke signed the forged contract," Emma said quietly. "It's the same amount he owed Russo." Maya's eyes widened. So Russo paid Ava through Vincent's shell account using Luke as a bridge. Emma wasn't the product, she was the cover. Vincent stood abruptly, pacing to the window. His reflection flickered against the skyline. "He used my company to move dirty money," he said, his voice low, dangerous. "He made me part of it." Emma felt a chill run down her spine. "He framed you too." Maya typed furiously. "I can trace Russo's offshore entities. If I connect the dots, we can prove Ava and Luke were pawns in a laundering ring." Vincent turned back. "How long will it take?" "Maybe 24 hours, but you'll need to keep Emma safe. If Russo finds out we're digging, he'll cut his losses and his witnesses." Emma looked between them. "So I'm bait again." Vincent's voice softened. "No, you're the evidence that survives." She stared at him, recognizing that hint of protectiveness again, the kind that felt both comforting and suffocating. "I don't want to just survive, Vincent. I want to win." He stepped closer, meeting her gaze. "Then we win smart. Quiet. No more chaos." Maya interrupted. "Actually, I think chaos is coming to you whether you like it or not." They both looked at her. Maya flipped her screen, showing a message thread she'd intercepted from a contact inside Russo's circle. It read, "Move the nurse before she talks. Moretti won't risk a war." Emma's heart raced. "Move me? What does that mean?" Vincent didn't hesitate. "It means we relocate tonight." He grabbed his phone, issuing orders in a voice so calm it frightened her. Within minutes, security personnel appeared at the door, men in dark suits, earpieces glowing faintly. Emma gathered her things. Documents, laptop, the little stuffed bear she'd bought for the baby. She didn't ask where they were going. She didn't have to. As the elevator doors closed, Vincent touched her shoulder. "Once Maya proves the connection, I'll bring Russo down myself." Emma met his eyes. "And what happens after that?" His expression softened. "After that, you walk free. No more debts, no more fear." She exhaled, leaning against the cool glass of the elevator. "And you?" He smiled faintly. "Maybe I learned to stop fixing what I break." The doors slid open to the underground garage, but just as they stepped toward the waiting car, a man in a dark coat emerged from the shadows. Gun drawn, eyes cold. Vincent moved faster than thought, shoving Emma behind him. The gun clicked, and for one split second, the entire world held its breath. The gun never fired. A car screeched into the garage, headlights blinding, and the shooter fled into the shadows. Within seconds, Vincent's men surrounded Emma, ushering her into the back seat of the Mercedes. Her heart pounded so loud she could barely hear Vincent shouting orders. As the car sped out of Manhattan, she turned to him, trembling. "Was that Russo's man?" Vincent's jaw tightened. "Yes. He's running out of patience." Emma clutched her belly. "Then why are we running away? We should expose him now." Vincent looked at her, his voice steady but cold. "Because I want him to show his face first. Once he steps into the light, I'll end this." They drove in silence through the night, leaving behind the city lights for the quiet darkness of Long Island. By dawn, the Mercedes pulled up to a sprawling mansion overlooking the gray Atlantic. "The Hamptons," Emma murmured. Vincent nodded. "My family's summer property. It's isolated and secure." She stared out at the ocean waves, restless and cold. "Nothing about this feels safe." Inside, Isabella waited with coffee and files. She didn't waste time on pleasantries. Maya traced the money trail. Russo's using Ava's PR company as a laundering channel. The next transfer hits tomorrow during a charity art auction here in the Hamptons. We can expose it publicly if we control the room. Emma blinked. "An auction?" Isabella slid over a glossy invitation. "The Ocean's Grace Gala, hosted by the Russo Foundation." Vincent smirked. "Perfect place for a fall." Maya joined on a call, her voice crisp through the speaker. "I can project the data onto the event screen when the auction starts. Every transaction, every forged contract, every transfer between Ava, Luke, and Russo. Once the crowd sees it, the press will tear him apart." Emma hesitated. "And what happens to Ava?" Vincent's expression hardened. "She chose her side." Emma swallowed. "I don't want her dead, I just want the truth." Vincent met her eyes, something unspoken passing between them. "Then we'll do it your way." The night of the gala, the mansion glowed like a glass palace. Luxury cars lined the circular driveway. Bentleys, Rolls-Royces, even a white Lamborghini that looked too loud for the rain. Guests arrived draped in designer gowns, sipping champagne, unaware they were walking into an ambush of truth. Emma wore a simple black dress, her hair pinned up, her baby bump visible but elegant. She felt everyone's gaze, curious, pitying, judgmental, but she walked tall. Vincent escorted her through the marble hall, hand at her back but never possessive. "Remember," he murmured, "once the projection starts, step back. Let the truth burn on its own." The room was filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and soft jazz. Ava arrived late, radiant in silver satin, clutching the arm of Russo, a man in his 50s, tanned, smiling like a snake. When Ava spotted Emma across the room, her expression faltered for just a second. "Showtime," Isabella whispered. The lights dimmed. The auctioneer raised his microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, before our final item, a short presentation from our sponsors." The giant LED screen flickered. Instead of art, rows of bank transactions filled the display. A hush fell. Vincent stepped aside, arms crossed, watching Russo's smile die. Maya's voice came through the speakers, pre-recorded. "Behind every donation lies a transaction. Behind every promise, a price. Tonight the world learns who pays for silence." The room erupted, guests whispered, phones lifted, flashes fired. Russo cursed under his breath and turned on Ava. "What did you do?" She backed away. I didn't know they'd find it." Emma stepped forward, voice calm but clear. "You knew. You always knew." Security moved in, but Vincent raised his hand. "No one leaves until the police arrive." Russo lunged for the exit, but Daniel appeared from the side door, badge flashing, gun drawn. "You're not going anywhere." Gasps rippled through the crowd as officers stormed in. Ava's mascara streaked down her cheeks. "You ruined me," she whispered. Emma shook her head. "No, Ava, you did that yourself." Russo was handcuffed, shouting threats that meant nothing now. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted, chaos bloomed. Vincent turned to Emma, his voice low amid the storm. "It's over." She looked at him, eyes steady. "No, it's beginning." And as the police led Russo away, a single flash from a nearby camera captured Emma standing under the chandelier, pregnant, unbroken, and finally free of their shadows. The image would spread across every headline by morning. Marking the night, the hunted woman became the hero. The gala had ended hours ago, but the echo of chaos still lingered in Emma's ears. The flashing cameras, the shouts, the trembling voice of Ava trying to justify herself. It all played in her mind like a storm that refused to quiet. The police had taken Russo and his men away, Vincent's lawyers were handling the fallout, and yet Emma couldn't sleep. She sat alone in a small side room of the mansion, her hands resting protectively over her belly. The baby moved faintly, a tiny reassurance that life was still pulsing inside her despite everything that had happened. Footsteps echoed down the marble hall. Then the door burst open. Luke. His suit was wrinkled, his tie gone, his face slick with sweat. He looked thinner, desperate, his eyes darting around like a man hunted. Emma froze. How did you even get past security? He laughed, a broken sound. Security's busy taking pictures with the cops. I slipped in. Vincent's voice came from behind Luke, calm but sharp as glass. That was a mistake. Luke spun around, his voice rising. You ruined my life. You and your money and your perfect suits. You think you can take everything from me and walk away? Vincent didn't flinch. You took everything from yourself. Emma stood slowly. Luke, please. Just stop. It's over. He turned to her, his face twisting. Over? You think it's over for me? You made me look like trash in front of the whole country. You think anyone's gonna hire me after this? You took my life, Emma. Tears stung her eyes, but her voice stayed calm. No, Luke, you threw it away. I begged you to change. I begged you to be better, and all you did was sell pieces of me until there was nothing left. He stepped closer, eyes wild. You always thought you were better than me. I just wanted to survive, she whispered. Vincent stepped forward, voice low. That's enough. Leave. Luke's hand shot out, pointing at him. You think you can order me around like one of your dogs? You think she loves you now? She'll use you just like she used me. Emma's hand flew to her chest. Luke, stop. You need help. Help? He laughed bitterly. I need my life back. In one sudden motion, he lunged toward Vincent. Daniel, who had been standing guard outside, burst into the room. He tackled Luke to the floor, pinning him with his knee. Get off me, Luke roared, but Daniel was stronger. Within seconds, 2 uniformed officers rushed in and cuffed him. You're under arrest for trespassing and assault, Daniel said firmly. Luke spat at the floor, glaring up at Emma. You'll regret this. You think these people care about you? You're just a pawn. Emma's tears fell freely now, but they weren't for him. They were for the years she had wasted believing love could heal someone who didn't want saving. Vincent placed a hand on her shoulder. Are you all right? She nodded weakly. Yes, just tired. Daniel helped the officers escort Luke out. The room fell silent except for Emma's uneven breaths. Vincent crouched in front of her, his tone soft. You did nothing wrong. Don't let him make you doubt that. She sank into the chair, trembling. I didn't want it to end like this. Vincent sighed. Men like him never let it end any other way. Emma looked up at him, her eyes searching his face. What happens now? He met her gaze. Now we make sure this never happens to anyone else. Isabella's setting up a victims fund in your name. Every dollar Russo laundered will be turned into something good. She blinked. In my name? Vincent smiled faintly. In honor of every woman who was told she was powerless. Emma exhaled shakily, her fingers tracing the edge of the chair. I don't know what to say. Say you'll rest, he murmured. You've earned that much. She managed a small smile. I'll try. As Vincent left the room, Emma glanced at the mirror on the wall. For the first time, she didn't see a victim staring back. She saw someone standing again. Outside, police sirens faded into the distance. Luke Carter was gone. But deep in Emma's heart, she knew the real fight, the one for her own peace, was just beginning. The Hamptons mansion was quiet now. The police cars were gone, the cameras silenced, and the last of the guests had fled hours earlier. But sleep refused to come for Emma. She stood by the window of the guest suite, staring out at the ocean waves crashing against the rocks below. The night air smelled like salt and rain, thick and heavy, as if the earth itself was exhaling after too long holding its breath. Her body ached with exhaustion, yet her mind refused to rest. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Luke's face twisted in rage, Ava's fear, Russo's handcuffed wrists. Justice had been served, yes, but justice didn't erase the pain. She moved to the vanity, where a small lamp cast golden light across the room. Her reflection looked older than she remembered, eyes swollen, cheeks pale, hair tangled in loose strands. She touched her belly softly. We made it, she whispered. Somehow we made it. On the dresser sat the Cartier box, still sealed with masking tape. She hadn't opened it since that first night. She reached for it now, fingertips tracing the rough edge of the tape, then stopped. Some things didn't need to be reopened. She set it aside and picked up a worn paperback instead, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Maya had given it to her, saying, You'll like this. It reminds you that peace is a choice, not a gift. She flipped to a random page. The words read, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Emma smiled faintly. Power over my mind, she murmured. I'll try to remember that. There was a soft knock at the door. She turned, startled. Vincent stood in the doorway. No suit tonight, just a gray sweater and tired eyes. "I couldn't sleep," he said quietly. "Thought I'd check on you." Emma gestured toward the chair by the window. "Come in. The ocean's good company, but it doesn't talk back." He sat down, the sound of the waves filling the silence between them. After a long moment, he said, "Isabella filed the paperwork for the victim's fund. It'll carry your name." "I didn't do this for credit," Emma replied. "I know," Vincent said. "That's why it matters." She looked at him, studying the faint lines at the corners of his eyes. "Do you ever stop fighting?" He exhaled. "Only when I forget who I'm fighting for." "Who is that, Vincent?" He hesitated. "Used to be myself. Now, I don't know." Emma's lips curved into a small, sad smile. "That sounds honest." He chuckled softly. "You make honesty sound like redemption." She leaned back in her chair. "Maybe it is." The clock ticked past midnight. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled. Vincent stood, walking toward the door. "You should rest. Tomorrow we go back to the city. Back to real life." "Real life," Emma repeated, her voice distant. "Feels like a dream after all this." He paused at the doorway, glancing back. "Dreams end. This doesn't have to." She looked down, fingers resting on the book in her lap. "Good night, Vincent." "Good night, Emma." When the door clicked shut, she sat for a long while, listening to the sea. The baby shifted again, gentle and alive. She whispered, "We're almost there, sweetheart." Finally, she pulled a small duffel bag from the closet and began packing. A few clothes, her medical records, the book, the sealed Cartier box. Tomorrow she'd leave the mansion behind. The lies, the violence, the ghosts. Outside, lightning flashed over the ocean, illuminating the horizon like a warning and a promise, all at once. Emma stood by the window one last time, hand over her belly, breathing deep. Somewhere in the darkness, a faint ripple of movement glimmered on the water. Just a boat's light, maybe, but enough to make her whisper to the child inside her, "No matter what waits beyond tomorrow, we'll face it together." The contractions began before dawn, sharp and deep, waking Emma from a restless sleep. At first, she thought it was just nerves, the echo of too many sleepless nights, but when the second one came, stronger, tighter, she knew. The baby was ready. She sat up, clutching her belly, breathing through the pain. The ocean roared outside the window like applause and warning all at once. "Okay, sweetheart," she whispered, voice shaking. "It's time." She grabbed her phone and called Grace first. "It's happening," she said between breaths. Grace's voice jolted awake. "Stay calm. I'm calling Vincent. Don't move. I'll meet you at the hospital." 15 minutes later, Vincent appeared at her door, eyes wild, coat half-zipped, phone still in his hand. "How far apart?" he asked, his usual calm replaced with panic. 5 minutes, Emma gasped. "Maybe 4. "Then we go now." The car ride felt endless. The world outside was still half asleep, dawn painting the sky pink and gray. Vincent kept glancing at her from the driver's seat, one hand on the wheel, the other clenched tight. "Breathe," he said, voice low but urgent. "Just breathe." She managed a strained laugh. "You sound like the nurses I work with." He smiled weakly. "You trained me well." By the time they reached Brooklyn General, Grace was already waiting by the emergency entrance. Nurses rushed out with a wheelchair, and within seconds Emma was surrounded by familiar faces, familiar voices calling her name. "BP stable. 7 centimeters. Get dot 11. She's early but steady." They wheeled her into the delivery room. The sterile lights felt too bright, the smell of disinfectant too sharp. But then Grace was there, holding her hand, grounding her through every contraction. Vincent stood near the door, not daring to cross the invisible line of medical space. His hands were clasped tightly behind his back, his face pale. Emma turned to him between gasps. "You don't have to stay." He shook his head. "I'm not leaving." Hours blurred into a rhythm of pain and silence, push and rest, her own heartbeat pounding louder than the machine's. The nurses coached her gently. Grace wiped sweat from her forehead. Time melted away until only one truth remained. This was the moment her entire life had been leading toward. When the final contraction came, she screamed, not in fear but in pure defiance of everything that had tried to break her. Then suddenly, the room filled with a sound so small and powerful it erased everything else, her baby's first cry. The doctor smiled. "It's a girl." Emma sobbed, reaching out with trembling hands. They placed the tiny bundle against her chest, warm and perfect. The baby's skin was soft, her cry fading into small hiccups as she nuzzled closer. "Hello, little one?" Emma whispered through tears. "We did it." Grace sniffled. "She's beautiful, Em." Emma looked up at Vincent, who stood frozen, eyes glistening. He took one cautious step closer, as if afraid the moment would vanish if he moved too fast. "You can come closer," she said softly. He hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Yes." He walked to the bedside, looking down at the newborn. "She's incredible," he murmured. Emma smiled weakly. "Her name's Hope." Vincent repeated it quietly like a prayer. "Hope." For the first time his voice cracked. Grace caught his expression and smiled knowingly. "Guess she already has you wrapped around her finger." Vincent chuckled softly. "Seems she takes after her mother." The doctor interrupted gently. "We'll give you both a moment, then move you to recovery." As the nurses cleared the room, Vincent lingered at the doorway. Emma looked at him, eyes full of exhaustion and light. "Thank you," she whispered. He met her gaze. "No, thank you, for reminding me what matters." She looked down at her daughter, who was now sleeping soundly against her heart. Outside, dawn finally broke over Brooklyn. The storm had passed, and for the first time in months, Emma Carter wasn't running, fighting, or surviving. She was simply living, holding everything she had ever fought for in her arms. Morning sunlight streamed through the hospital window, turning everything gold. Emma woke slowly, her body heavy but her heart light. The rhythmic sound of the baby's breathing was the most beautiful thing she'd ever heard. Hope lay bundled in her arms. Tiny fingers curled around Emma's thumb, like she was holding on to the world. Grace slipped quietly into the room, holding 2 coffees. "You look like someone who just met her soulmate," she whispered. Emma smiled, exhausted but radiant. "I think I did." Grace brushed a hand over Hope's head. "She has your eyes." Emma laughed softly. "Poor kid." The door opened and Vincent stepped in. He wasn't wearing a suit today, just a simple white shirt, sleeves rolled, dark jeans. He looked normal, human. In his hand was a small white envelope. "I didn't want to interrupt," he said, voice lower than usual, "but I couldn't wait." Grace squeezed Emma's shoulder. "I'll give you 2 a minute." She left the room quietly, leaving behind the faint smell of coffee and peace. Vincent stepped closer. "You look better," he said, trying for a smile. Emma tilted her head. "And you look like someone who hasn't slept." He exhaled, half laughing. "You're right, I haven't." "Sit," she said, nodding toward the chair beside her bed. "Before you fall over." He sat, awkwardly folding his hands in his lap. His gaze softened when it fell on Hope. "She's perfect." Emma nodded. "Yeah, she's everything." He handed her the envelope. "For her." Emma frowned. "Vincent, I don't need your money." "It's not money," he said quickly. "It's her college fund. A legitimate 529 plan. Transparent, no loopholes. Isabella handled it herself." She hesitated, then opened the envelope. Inside was a single document, simple, clean, official. Hope Moretti Carter Education Fund. Emma's name signed at the bottom. Her eyes filled. "You didn't have to do this." Vincent shook his head. "I did, because she deserves a future that isn't chained to what her parents survived." Emma swallowed hard. "You're trying to make up for too much." "Maybe," he said quietly, "but maybe it's not too late to start right." She looked at him for a long moment, then smiled faintly. "Thank you for not trying to buy me this time." His eyes softened. "I learned my lesson." Hope stirred, letting out a soft cry. Emma rocked her gently, humming a tune her mother used to sing. Vincent watched silently, his expression unreadable, admiration and regret mixing like light and shadow. After a while he said, "Can I?" He gestured toward the baby. Emma hesitated, then nodded. "Wash your hands first, hospital rules." He smiled, really smiled for the first time. He did as told, then took the baby in his arms with surprising gentleness. Hope blinked up at him, eyes wide and curious. Vincent froze, almost afraid to breathe. "She's so small," he murmured. "She's stronger than she looks," Emma said. "Like someone else I know." He looked up, meeting her eyes. "She's going to have your heart. I can already tell," Emma chuckled. "Then she'll break a few along the way." "Good," he said softly. "That means she'll live." For a moment they sat there, 2 people who had survived too much, holding the proof that new life could still grow out of ruin. When Hope began to fuss again, Vincent carefully handed her back. "She prefers you," he said. "Of course," Emma teased. "I feed her." He smiled and stood, slipping his hands into his pockets. "Isabella and I are setting up press protection. The media's still circling, but they're losing interest. Ava's facing charges, Russo's team is collapsing, and Luke, he's officially cooperating with the DA. Emma's eyes flickered. Cooperating? Turns out, Vincent said, he's more afraid of prison than pride. He gave them everything, names, accounts, proof. The case is airtight now. She exhaled slowly. So it's really over. For you, yes, he said. For me, not yet, but I'll get there. He looked at Hope once more, then at Emma. You both deserve a clean start. Emma smiled gently. We're already there, Vincent? He nodded, emotion flickering behind his calm mask. Then take care of each other. As he turned to leave, Emma called softly. Vincent? He stopped. She's not just hope, Emma said. She's proof. Proof that no matter what they took from us, we still got to build something good. Vincent's throat tightened. Then she's named perfectly. Outside the hospital window, the city glimmered in morning light. Inside, for the first time in years, Vincent Moretti walked away not as a man trying to control fate, but as someone finally learning how to let go. 3 weeks later, the world had already moved on. The headlines about the Hampton scandal faded beneath newer stories. Political feuds, celebrity divorces, another Wall Street crash rumor. But for Emma, life was just beginning to find rhythm again. The days were quieter now. Feedings, soft lullabies, and the small miracle of seeing her daughter open her eyes each morning. Still, peace had its cracks. Grace stopped by one afternoon with groceries and gossip. You should see it, she said, setting her phone on the counter. Ava's back online. Emma froze. Already? Grace nodded. New channel, new name, Ava Monroe Reborn. She's posting clips saying she was manipulated by you and Vincent. Emma's chest tightened. She's doubling down. Yeah, Grace said grimly. And people are eating it up. Emma rubbed her temples, trying to steady her breathing. What exactly is she saying? Grace scrolled and read aloud. She claims she was framed as the face of a laundering scheme to protect a certain powerful man's pregnant mistress. She's hinting that you planned everything to take down Russo and profit from his fall. Emma's stomach turned. Of course she's lying. Of course, Grace agreed. But lies travel faster than truth. Later that night, Emma called Maya. The journalist answered on the first ring. I saw Ava's new video, Maya said before Emma could speak. She's using deepfakes and edited clips again. Don't panic. I'm already working on exposing it. Can't we just let it die? Emma asked, exhaustion heavy in her voice. Every time I fight back, it drags me back into that world. Maya sighed. I get it, but if you stay silent, her version becomes the truth. Emma glanced toward Hope, asleep in her crib, the soft sound of baby breaths filling the room. I don't want her to grow up Googling my name and finding lies. Then we fight one last time, Maya said. Not with noise, with proof. 2 days later, the story broke. Maya released an investigative piece titled The Last Lie, How Power and Vanity Nearly Destroyed an Innocent Woman. It wasn't flashy. It was meticulous. Screenshots, court documents, verified bank trails, even recordings from Luke's testimony were included. The article went viral within hours. Ava's new narrative collapsed like glass under pressure. Sponsors pulled out. Her channel was flagged for misinformation. Vincent called that evening, his tone lighter than Emma had ever heard. You read Maya's piece? I did, Emma said. It was honest. She did you justice, he said softly. And maybe me too. You deserve that, she said. He paused. You really believe that? I wouldn't lie to you, she replied. Not after everything. For a long moment there was only silence on the line. Then Vincent said, Luke signed the final plea deal today. He'll serve time, but he asked me to tell you something. Emma's pulse quickened. What? He said, tell her I finally saw what she saw in me, and I hate it. Emma closed her eyes. That sounds like Luke. I told him you've moved on, Vincent said. He didn't argue, Emma whispered. I hope he finds peace someday, just not here. Vincent chuckled faintly. I think you already found yours. Maybe, she said, looking down at Hope, who was stirring awake. Or maybe it found me. That night, Emma sat by the window with her daughter in her arms. The city glowed outside, alive but distant. Hope reached up, clutching at the air. Emma smiled. You know, little one, your name keeps proving itself right. Her phone buzzed. A message from Maya. Ava's offline. Permanently. Another message followed from Vincent. Dinner tomorrow? Nothing fancy. Just food, light, and people who survived. Emma typed back. Yes. She set her phone aside and kissed her daughter's forehead. It's over, she whispered. For the first time, she believed it. Across town, Vincent closed his laptop and looked out over the Manhattan skyline. Somewhere in the distance, a woman and her child were finally safe. And for the first time in years, the man who once believed everything had a price finally understood the one thing money could never buy: peace. It was spring in Brooklyn, and the city felt alive again. The snow had melted into soft puddles that reflected the skyline, and the scent of coffee and blooming trees filled the air. For the first time in a long time, Emma Carter could walk down the street without glancing over her shoulder. Hope was 3 months old now, chubby and alert, with the same curious eyes that had once belonged to her father, but softer, calmer, free. Emma pushed the stroller down the familiar sidewalk outside the brownstone she'd managed to rent. It wasn't fancy, but it was theirs. The morning sunlight touched the stoop like a blessing. Grace met her on the corner with a Starbucks in each hand. "Mom, life looks good on you," she teased. Emma laughed, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "That's because you only see me after the caffeine hits." They strolled together, trading small talk about diapers, sleep schedules, and the endless laundry that came with motherhood. It was ordinary, gloriously ordinary. At a red light, Grace nodded toward a newspaper stand. "You see this?" Emma glanced over. On the front page, a small headline read, "Ava Monroe sentenced to 2 years for fraud and defamation." Below it was a smaller piece, "Russo's empire officially dismantled." Emma exhaled slowly. "So it's really over." Grace smiled. "Looks like it." For the first time in years, the word freedom didn't feel foreign. That afternoon, Emma had an interview at a midtown hospital for a patient educator position. Steady hours, good pay, and benefits. The thought of going back to work filled her with nervous excitement. She dressed simply. White blouse, navy blazer, minimal makeup. She wanted to be seen for her competence, not her past. Before leaving, she bent over Hope's crib, kissing her daughter's forehead. "Be good for Aunt Grace, okay? Mommy's gonna build us something new." The interview went well. The department head, Dr. Green, had heard of Emma's story but didn't mention it. Instead, he focused on her skills, her years of nursing, her ability to stay calm under pressure. "We need people who've lived through something real," he said. "You'd be an asset here." Emma smiled, her heart lifting. "Then I'd be honored." When she left the hospital, the sky was beginning to turn gold. She checked her phone. One new message. "Vincent. Central Park, Bethesda Fountain, 6 p.m. Bring hope. It's safe. I promise." She hesitated, then typed back, "We'll be there." The park was alive with music and laughter. Children chased pigeons, couples walked hand in hand, the air smelled like street pretzels and tulips. Emma pushed the stroller toward the fountain, her heart oddly calm. Vincent was already there, leaning against a railing, dressed simply in a navy sweater and jeans. He looked different, lighter somehow. When he saw them, he smiled. A real, unguarded smile that reached his eyes. "You made it." Emma nodded. "I almost didn't." "I wouldn't have blamed you," he said softly. She looked around at the people, the sunlight flickering on the water. "This place feels like a second chance." Vincent nodded toward the stroller. "May I?" She hesitated, then nodded. He knelt beside it, gently touching Hope's hand. The baby blinked up at him, fascinated. "She's growing fast," he said. "She's her own little storm," Emma replied, smiling. "Soft 1 minute, unstoppable the next," he laughed quietly. "Sounds familiar." For a moment, they simply stood there, watching the sunlight shimmer across the fountain. "Are you happy?" Vincent asked finally. Emma took a deep breath. "I think I'm learning how to be." "That's more than most people ever do." She looked at him. "And you?" "I'm learning too," he said. "But for once, I'm not trying to control everything." They walked together along the path, the city glowing behind them. Hope giggled at the breeze, her tiny fingers reaching toward the sky. Emma smiled. "You know, I used to think strength was about never breaking. Now I think it's about choosing light, every single day, no matter how dark it gets." Vincent nodded. "Then you're the strongest person I've ever met." She blushed, looking away. "Don't say that too loudly. I might start believing it." As the sun dipped behind the skyline, they stopped at the bridge, watching the light fade over the lake. For the first time in years, Emma Carter didn't feel like someone surviving a story. She felt like someone finally living one. Winter came back to New York with silver breath and slow snow. The city looked almost gentle under it, like the kind of peace people only pretend exists. Inside the Plaza Hotel, chandeliers glowed warm gold as guests in evening gowns and tailored tuxedos filled the grand ballroom for a charity gala that promised redemption instead of gossip. The headline on the invitations read, "The Hope Foundation, for victims of financial and emotional coercion." The name Hope wasn't a coincidence. It was Emma's idea. She stood near the entrance, wearing a simple champagne-colored dress, her hair swept back, a soft glow replacing the tiredness that once haunted her eyes. She wasn't the same woman who had walked out of the River Cafe terrified months ago. She was steady now, grounded. Grace fussed with her shawl. "You sure you're okay being here? It's a big crowd." Emma smiled. "I've faced worse than applause." Across the room, Isabella Moretti moved like quiet command, handling logistics, greeting donors, ensuring the press stuck to their pre-approved list of questions. Vincent was by the bar, in a classic black suit that made him look exactly like who he was, and yet nothing like the man he used to be. When his eyes found Emma's, he didn't move immediately. He just watched her, as if making sure she was real in all this light. Then, slowly, he crossed the room. "You look," he started, then stopped himself. "Like someone who's exactly where she belongs." Emma smiled. "That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me." He extended his hand. "Dance with me before the speeches start." She hesitated, then placed her hand in his. The orchestra shifted into something soft, an old Sinatra tune, and the crowd melted into background hum. As they swayed beneath the chandeliers, Vincent whispered, "You built this. All of it. Do you realize that?" Emma looked around the ballroom, at the tables filled with survivors, donors, volunteers, people who believed in second chances. "No," she said. "We did." He smiled, but there was a shadow in it. "You don't owe me credit, Emma." "Maybe not," she said, "but I owe you honesty. You gave me time when I had none left. That matters." Before he could answer, the lights dimmed slightly. Isabella appeared on stage, microphone in hand. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being part of something that started as one woman's fight for her dignity and became a movement for every voice silenced by fear. Please welcome our founder, Emma Carter." Applause rippled through the ballroom as Emma stepped up. Her heart pounded, but her voice was clear. "Not long ago," she began, "I was a nurse who thought strength meant staying quiet. I believed love was sacrifice, that forgiveness meant forgetting. But I was wrong. Strength is truth, forgiveness is freedom, and love—" She looked out toward the crowd, then at Vincent. "Love is what happens when you stop letting fear tell your story." The room fell silent. Even the photographers lowered their cameras. Emma continued. "This foundation exists because no woman should ever feel like her worth can be negotiated. We can't change what was done to us, but we can choose what comes next. Tonight, we choose hope." When she finished, the applause was thunderous, standing, echoing, alive. Vincent was the first to rise. He clapped slowly, eyes shining with quiet pride. After the speeches, people swarmed her with congratulations, donors promising support, reporters asking for quotes. She smiled through it all, but her gaze kept drifting back to one corner of the room, Vincent standing by the balcony doors, watching her with that same mix of distance and warmth. Later, when the crowd thinned and music softened, she found him again. "You never dance twice in one night?" she teased. "Only when the second time means something," he said. She laughed softly, letting him lead her out to the terrace. Snow drifted through the air, settling gently on her shoulders. The city stretched beneath them, endless and alive. "You did it," he said quietly. "No," she corrected. "We did, together, without chains." He smiled, pulling her closer. "Then maybe it's time to stop surviving and start living." And there, under the slow snow and city lights, Emma Carter, once sold, once silenced, danced freely for the first time, the word hope shimmering like a promise between them both. Spring sunlight spilled over Brooklyn like a soft blessing. The air carried the smell of rain, fresh laundry, and possibility. Emma Carter stood on the stoop of her small brownstone, watching Hope giggle in her stroller, reaching for the sunlight with tiny hands. The city buzzed around them, delivery trucks, laughter, the sound of life moving forward. Inside the apartment, morning light touched the walls painted in warm beige tones. There were no marble counters or chandeliers here, just love and peace, the kind money could never buy. The living room held a thrifted couch, a second-hand crib, and a small bookshelf lined with paperbacks. A Atomic Habits, Women Who Run with the Wolves, and a worn copy of Meditations. Emma sipped her coffee, smiling as Hope babbled to her reflection in a window pane. The baby's laughter filled the air like music. "You've got your mom's attitude," she said playfully. "That's going to get us both in trouble one day." Her phone buzzed on the counter. A message from Dr. Green. "Welcome aboard. See you Monday." Emma let out a small breath of joy. She'd officially been hired full-time at the hospital as a patient educator. A steady job, a future, stability. Grace arrived not long after, carrying a grocery bag full of fruit and baby wipes. "So this is the new office of Miss Emma Carter, educator extraordinaire," she teased, setting the bag down. Emma laughed. "Don't make me sound important. I'm just trying to keep up." Grace grinned. "You're doing more than that, Em. You built a whole new life from ashes." Emma smiled, humbled. "No," she said softly. "We built it. Me, you, Maya, Isabella, even Vincent." Grace nodded knowingly. "Speaking of Mr. Tall, dark and brooding, he called earlier. Said he'll stop by later." Emma froze. "He's coming here?" Grace shrugged. "Said something about brunch and good news." 2 hours later, a familiar knock sounded at the door. Emma wiped her hands on a towel and opened it to find Vincent standing there, dressed simply in a dark blue shirt, sleeves rolled up, holding a paper bag that smelled suspiciously like pancakes. "I come bearing peace offerings," he said, smiling. She laughed. "You didn't have to. Maybe I wanted to." He stepped inside, glancing around. "You've made this place yours." Emma gestured toward the small living room. "It's not the plaza, but it's home." Vincent smiled faintly. "It's better." They sat at the table, the smell of syrup and butter filling the air. Hope cooed from her high chair, smearing mashed banana across her tray. Vincent watched her, eyes soft. "She's growing fast. She doesn't wait for anyone," Emma said. "Guess she gets that from me." He chuckled. "You're both unstoppable." After a moment, he reached into his jacket and handed her a small white box. "For you." Emma frowned. "Vincent, I told you, no more expensive gifts." He shook his head. "It's not expensive, just something you might like." Inside the box was a simple silver locket, engraved with a single word, Hope. Emma's eyes glistened. "It's beautiful." He smiled softly. "I thought it should be something you chose to wear, not something anyone gave to own you." She traced the locket with her fingers, her voice trembling. "Thank you." They sat in silence for a moment, then Vincent spoke. "The Foundation's expanding to other states. I want you to lead the patient advocacy branch. It's your vision, Emma. Your voice that started it." She blinked. "You mean a new position?" He nodded. "Director of Outreach. Full control. Say yes, and we'll build it together." Emma looked around her little apartment, then at Hope, and finally at him. "You're offering me partnership?" "I'm offering you equality," Vincent said simply. Her heart softened. "Then yes." He smiled, a real one. "Good, because I wasn't planning to do it without you." They finished brunch while Hope babbled between them, the air full of warmth and laughter. When Vincent stood to leave, Emma walked him to the door. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For never asking me to be less than who I am." He smiled. "I wouldn't dare." As he stepped outside, the sun caught his face, and for a brief moment the world felt perfectly balanced, past and future meeting in one small Brooklyn doorway. Emma held Hope close, whispering, "We're free, baby girl. Truly free." And as the city hummed beyond their window, Emma Carter finally understood that some vows aren't spoken at altars. They're written in survival, sealed in courage, and lived every single day. So, that's how our story comes to an end. And if you're still here, right now, listening, maybe something in it touched your heart in a quiet, personal way. Maybe you saw a little piece of yourself in Emma, someone who kept standing when life tried to break her. You see, her journey wasn't just about revenge or pain. It was about reclaiming peace, choosing light, and learning that survival isn't weakness. It's proof of strength. Like the Stoics used to say, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Healing begins when we stop trying to control the storm and start learning how to stand in the rain. Emma did that, and so can you. So my dear friends, if her story reminded you that no pain lasts forever, that every scar can become wisdom, then take a moment right now. Give this video a like, share it with someone who needs hope tonight, and hit subscribe to stay with us on the next story of courage, redemption, and healing. Because maybe, just maybe, your story of hope is only beginning.